Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin with chapter 47, verse 29. Chapter 47, verse 29. The Jewish people are now living in the land of Goshen, and we say now, Vayikrevu Yemei Yisrael Lambus. The days of Israel, Yaakov, came close to his death. Vayikra Livno Yosef, and he called to his son Yosef. Vayomer lo, and he said to Yosef, if I found favor in your eyes, place your hand underneath my thigh. This is an act of an oath. Do with me kindness and truth. Please don't bury me in Egypt. I want to be buried in Maras Machpelah with the other patriarchs and matriarchs. And Yosef says he'll do it. Now, just interesting, if you jump ahead now to chapter 48, verse 1, and it was after these things, Yosef, and it was told to Yosef, behold, your father is sick. Of course he was sick. He's on the verge of death. That's what we said 2 psukim ago. So Yosef brings his sons with him, Menashe and Ephraim. So and this is where we're going to have the famous scene where Yaakov blesses them and Yisimcha Elokim Ephraim Menashe. But just really a very basic question. What's the difference between Yisrael's days coming close to death and Yisrael being sick? Just what's the pshat here? So if we go back to the Ramban on Pasuk Chav Tes, Vayikrevu Yemei Yisrael Lamus, Pisrono, the meaning is, Kasher Karvu Yemei Yisrael Lamus, Kara Livno Yosef. When Yaakov was coming closer to death, he called to his son Yosef, V'hu Bashano Ha'achrona Liyamav. This was the last year of his life. So when we say he was on the verge of death, it doesn't mean his deathbed. It means it was evident that he was nearing the end of his life. So he wants to make this request of Yosef, that Yosef should make sure to bury him in Israel. He saw that his strength was ebbing. He wasn't ill, he wasn't on the verge of death, but it was clear that he was nearing the end. But he understood he wouldn't have long days at this point. And that's why he called to his son Yosef. And then some time after Yosef went back to the capital of Egypt, back to work, then Yaakov really became ill. And Yosef was informed. And now this is really near the end. So Yosef brings his 2 sons that his father should give his grandchildren these brachos. Okay, so that's just an interesting shot in the Ramban. Now, just jumping back to verse 31 now, jumping forward to verse 31. So after Yaakov makes this request of Yosef, that Yosef should make sure to bury him in Israel, and Yosef agrees to do this. Now in 31, it says, Vayomer Hishavali. Yaakov says to Yosef, I want you to swear to me that you're going to do this. And he swears to him, and then he bowed. Why does he not trust his own son? He asks his son to take care of this. His son says, yes, I'll take care of it. Promise me you'll take care of it. Why does he have to promise? Okay. Ramban on Pasuk Lamed Aleph, Hishavali Vayishavalo. Lo hoya Yaakov choshev b'no hatzadik ha'ohuv lo sheyamral mitzvos aviv v'al hadavar asher ivticho. Yaakov had great affection for Yosef. He didn't suspect Yosef of violating his father's instructions. V'omar anochi aseh kivarecha. And indeed, it's not only that his father instructed, Yosef said he would do it. Aval asakein lechazek ha'inyan be'enei paro. Yaakov wanted Yosef to swear so that Paro would be more inclined to accommodate the request. Maybe the scene will be that Yaakov will die and Yosef will come to Paro and says, I need to take a week off for leave to bury my father in Israel. And Paro will say, no way. Maybe that'll happen. V'yomar lo, shlach es achecha v'yasavdecha v'yalu sham. Maybe Paro will say to Yosef, you've got a big family. You have people working for you. You don't need to go. Let other members of the family go. Oh, Paro Maybe something else. Maybe Paro will see to it as a merit for the land of Egypt that this very distinguished individual, Yaakov, Midrashim talk about the fact that Yaakov brought great blessing with him to Egypt. Maybe Paro will want Yaakov to be buried in Egypt. Maybe Paro won't agree to have Yaakov buried in Israel. For either reason, either for the whole principle of Yaakov being buried in Israel, either for Yosef's involvement with Yaakov's burial in Israel, Yaakov wanted it to be easier for Yosef to convince Paro to let him do it. So Yosef now can turn to Paro and say, listen, with all due respect, I swear to my father, do you want me to violate the oath? And at that point, Paro would say, of course I don't want you to violate the oath. So Yaakov is having Yosef swear as to make it more feasible for Yosef to follow through. Okay. And by the way, the Ramban says it really, you see the wisdom of it from a pasuk when Yaakov has died, because what does Paro say to Yosef? Alei ukfores avicha, go up and bury your father, ka'asher hishbiecha, as he had you swear that you would do, which implies in some way that resonated with Paro. Who knows what Paro's response would have been had there not been an oath. So that's the Ramban's pshat there. Okay, chapter 48, verse 8. Chapter 48, verse 8. So now Yaakov is on his deathbed. Yosef is informed. Yosef brings his sons Ephraim and Menashe, and Yaakov has exchanged whatever words with Yosef. And now Vayar Yisrael es bnei Yosef. He sees the sons of Yosef. Vayomer meyela. He says, who are these people? Verse 9, Vayomer Yosef el aviv. Yosef says to his father, Bonai, they are my sons, Asher nasan li Elokim bazeh, that God gave me in this. Vayomar, and Yaakov says, Kachem no elai v'avorachem, bring them to me and I will bless them. What an interesting phrase. Yosef says to Yaakov, these are my sons that God gave me. Okay, I mean, would Yaakov think God didn't give them to you? Why does it say these are the sons that God gave me? So if you look at the Ramban, it's the second Ramban on Pasuk Tes. V'amar nasam li Elokim, sha'asli Hashem nisim, that God brought me miracles. Ad shenasam li hamelech ha'isha, va'ili abarim ha'ila mimena. It's Yosef is saying to his father that the fact that I was able here in Egypt to build a family and have these children is nothing short of miraculous. That I was able to reach the station in life, and that Paro helped me find an appropriate wife for myself, and that I had these children. So he's not saying to Yaakov, everything we have in life we should thank God for. That's not how the Ramban, I mean, that of course is true. He doesn't have to tell Yaakov that. So the Ramban says that what Yosef is saying, it's actually a beautiful shot. What Yosef is saying is just this moment of reflection. There's this fact that I have these children is nothing short of miraculous, and it's a gift from God. It's always a gift from God, but my specific circumstances are really miraculous. Maybe really remarkable is the better way to say it. If you just glance over, it's a similar point, but slightly different at the Orach Chaim. First Orach Chaim on Pasuk Tes, Asher nasan li. Derech HaTzadikim, it's the way of the righteous. Kishezochrim hatov asher igiyam, whenever they talk about the good that comes in their lives, cholkim kavod Hashem, they give honor to God. So actually, the Orach Chaim would disagree with the Ramban. The Ramban said that this is Yosef's way of saying that the fact that this all happened in my life, it's mind-boggling. Or the Orach Chaim says that no, that Yosef is saying anything in his life. It's just the way of life for a tzaddik. And by the way, it's not that different. Many of us have a way of, the question is if we think about it when we say it, but many of us say the phrase Baruch Hashem a lot, right? Baruch Hashem, this was good. Baruch Hashem, that was good. It's, according to Orach Chaim, it's actually a very similar thing. These are the children with which I was blessed by God. Saying, because he's the one who gave it. Ka'omro ha'yiladim asher chanan elokim esavdecha. And now the Orach Chaim connects it to the pasuk when Yaakov meets Esav. And so Esav asks, who are all these people? And what does Yaakov say to him? That these are the children that God granted to me. So actually, Yosef, says the Orach Chaim, is speaking in a very similar way about his children to how his father did. It's an interesting thing to think about. Okay, moving on to verse 16, a very, very, very famous pasuk. This is part of the blessing that Yaakov imparts to his grandsons Ephraim and Menashe. Hamalach hagoel osi, the angel who redeems me mikol ra, from all ill, yivareches hanaorim, should bless the children, these children Ephraim and Menashe. V'yikarei vehem shmi v'shem avosai Avram Yitzchak, and he should call upon them my name and the name of my fathers Avram and Yitzchak. V'yidku l'rov b'kerev haaretz, and they should become great in number in the land. We're really used to the pasuk, but just think about the pasuk for a moment. What in the world does it mean? He should call on them my name and the name of my fathers. So, on a simple level, I think we would assume it means that God should always view them as an extension of the patriarchs and matriarchs. I mean, I would assume that's the basic way to understand it. But just it's an interesting phrasing when you think about it. So there's a very interesting sforno on this pasuk. Sforno on pasuk Tes Zayin. It's the second sforno. V'korevem shmi v'shem avosai Avram Yitzchak lo shem terach v'nachor. What he's saying is that God should associate Ephraim and Menashe with me, Yitzchak, Avraham, cut, not the fathers of Avraham. In other words, Avraham started a whole new thing, this idea of monotheism, and that should be the association for Ephraim and Menashe. That Ephraim and Menashe should lead lives that wouldn't naturally be associated with their wicked ancestors who did idol worship and the like. We have this frequently in Tanakh, particularly in Navi, that if there's someone who conducts themselves in not such a good way, they frequently all of a sudden are associated with Ben so-and-so, going back to someone who didn't conduct themselves such a good way, or Tzaddik's name is not mentioned, etc. Skipping a couple of lines. I'm sorry. So therefore, the prayer of Yaakov is that they should be prepared for the service of God. They should live their lives in a way that the association with Avram and Yitzchak should make sense. That's what the Sforno says. Kli Yakar, first Kli Yakar pasuk Tezayin, v'korevem shmi v'shem avosai, shikar lehem kol ma shemora alav shmi v'shem avosai. It's a really interesting pshat. Yaakov is saying, my name has a message to it, and the message of my name should manifest itself in their lives. Kishem Yisrael al shem kisarisim elokim b'man Hashem. The idea of Yisrael is because you grappled with man and celestial beings and you overcame. So that should be true in their lives as well. Kach yatzadik Moshe b'yiras Hashem. They should be people of piety and always living with reverence for God. V'Yakov al shem ekev rav tov atzafim latzadikim. One of the ideas of the name Yaakov is that there's great things waiting down the road, like Ekev's like at the end. So there should be great things waiting for them because they should live righteous lives. Avram al shem Avamon Gayim. Avram was named that name because he's like a father to the world. They should be world leaders. Kach Yurosh l'chol ha'umos. People throughout the world should look at them for guidance, inspiration. The Yitzchak Targumei v'chadi. The idea of Yitzchak, the idea of that is a name of rejoicing. Kach tia tamid hasimcha b'ma'onim. They should always live with joy. So two different pshatim. The Sforno says they should live up to their predecessors, me, Yitzchak, and Avraham. The Kli Yakar says that all these brachos in the names of Yitzchak, of Yaakov, Yitzchak, and Avraham should all manifest themselves in their lives. So we discussed the Ramban regarding the timeline in terms of the two visits of Yosef to Yaakov. We discussed the Ramban as to why Yaakov would have Yosef swear that he would take care of his father's burial. We discussed the Ramban and Dor HaChaim as to why Yosef says, these are the children which God gave to me. And we discussed the Sforno and the Kli Yakar as to what it means that my name and the name of my father should be called upon them.